Hi everybody, I'm Sarah and welcome to the Big Blue House Homestead. I just want to do a quick update on the garden today because I've been working in there planting stuff. I had the tomatoes going last week, and what we're looking at is a horrible storm yesterday. One that was so bad it was like a monsoon. I couldn't see through my windows. The kids and I were in the hallway protecting ourselves. Sirens were going off, tornado warnings popping up left and right. Really scary weather. So I want to see what actually survived and what's still active and thriving and doing well in the garden, because I didn't come out here to look. Once the storm ended, we did dinner and homework, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. It's dark. I'm not going to go outside now. So I just want to see what actually made it. It's been a rough day because it's already gloomy again, and that's just one of those things you deal with. This time of year is not supposed to be this wet, but it is. But it also wasn't supposed to be so cold, and it was. So we'll see how this all turns out in the end. But yeah, let's do an update and see what's going on. Okay, it looks like my herbs in these pots did okay. I do have an herb pot that is absolutely full of ants, so I need to transplant my sage on that because I want to have more sage. But when I came out, these parsley were actually flat. So they're starting to pop back up and get their shape back. Let's hope that continues because I need to get more parsley this year. Okay, it looks like these tomatoes are doing great. I planted those in my leggy tomato video, and you can see how big they're already getting. I probably should come out and prune some of these bottom leaves that are turning yellow. But yeah, currant tomatoes, one of my favorites. All right, my cucumbers pulled through, and you can see they're actually setting flowers now. So that's pretty cool. Looks like the birds have been in here because there's some, bird poopy damage, but that's all right. I'm going to come through and prune off some of these yellow leaves soon and get those all nice and healthy looking. Yeah, those are some squash plants. There's actually 3 here. And you can see there's one here, one there, and then one over here. But look at all those weeds. That's just from the rain. And unfortunately, I don't like to come out and weed when it's wet like this because I use a saddle hoe or a stirrup hoe, whatever people call them. And when you do that with really wet ground, you just take up layers of dirt. And I'd rather just have this dry out some. But anything that is a root bound, thick stalk root bound weed, I remove immediately because it just pulls out easy. But the rest of these, they might get a little bit bigger before I get a chance to actually come through and clean them up. But the squash is doing great. I didn't get around to finishing up my bucket tomatoes, but look how much they've grown already. And that's just the 3 that I did get. I've got buckets filled, but just no plants in them yet. I've just been so busy, and then the rain. But yeah, tomatoes are looking good over here. My potatoes are doing pretty awesome. They're starting to yellow a little bit. That's natural for this time. But I did sneak a peek in one of them, and there were potatoes. I don't know if you can see that, but see the potatoes? There's little potatoes growing in here. Unfortunately, I'm still struggling with these pea plants. This row should be solid, but it's not. And they're still producing some peas. I think I'm just going to leave them for seed so I can redo them in the fall because it's not really enough for snacking or eating. These pea plants are doing awesome. They are absolutely full of blossoms. I've got peas popping up left and right. They are going to actually produce quite a bit for me. Just wish it would be, sooner and faster. Let me show you some close-ups of some of these peas. See? Check out those peas. Nice. All right, these tomatoes are doing great, and that kale is filling out really nicely. I'm going to have to come start picking some of that. The tall one here in the middle was actually one that was up potted because it had a broken stem, so it's doing a lot better than the others, but they survived the storm, so I'm happy about that. And these beds are not nearly as weedy as the squash beds. I don't know what's going on with that, but we'll see. All right, this one's got a little bit of this grass coming through, Bermuda grass. It looks like I've got one tomato that's not going to survive. And then these 2 look okay, and then that one on the end looks kind of sad too. So does that other one. So we'll see. That's the reason why I plant a lot of tomato plants. I try to put in as many as possible in case something like this happens. I then have more than I need, and I have so many plants that if I lose 1 or 2, it's not a big deal. You come down to these, they're doing pretty good. But then I have one over here that just doesn't look great. So, like I said, that's why I plant so many. I transplanted all my kohlrabies over here. I should have probably had them in the ground sooner so that they would bulb up better. But we'll see. Weather's still kind of mild. All the tomato plants back here are doing excellent. I didn't lose any of those. I do have this cage in the back, this one over here, and that one's not doing great at all. I had 5 plants and now I see 1. So let's go check that out. All right, yeah, it's definitely just 1 plant. I noticed the other day as I came out, there were just piles of leaves laying everywhere. I think that's from crows. I've had a few crows in the garden, and I think they decided that these tomato plants were going to be good. I'll have to look at my list and see what type they are, because I hope they're not one I was trying to save a lot from. All right, those are my Amish Pie Pumpkins. They have gotten really big, and they're doing really good. And then squash plants back there are doing great. There's just lots of weeds now. All right, my beets are just doing so awesome. Not sure if you can see this, but I actually have them bulbing up already. So I've got quite a bit that you can see since it rained. But yeah, there's quite a bit. You can see bulbs starting on them. So that's really good. That means I'll have beets this year. All right, these are all of my Kentucky Wonder pole beans. I need to get in and get some of the weeds behind them out, but they're doing really well. They're setting good leaves and they're starting to get big. And over here in the corner, this little plant right here, that's actually a zinnia. It's a red zinnia. Found a packet of seeds at a thrift store from 1980 and I got them to sprout. So I have 2 red zinnias coming from that. So that's pretty exciting for me. All right, I did lose one of my cucumbers that I put over here, but I decided that's fine. 1 plant's more than enough. And these are actually the white wonders. So we'll see how those turn out. I do have, looks like, some bug damage on some of my Kentucky Wonder pole beans over here. I can't spray with anything, especially like neem oils. It's just gonna wash away. So I'll just keep my fingers crossed and hope that they survive. I've got all of these onions that I grew last year. They didn't bulb up very well. So I left them in the ground so I could get seed. Now those onions may still be edible at the end of the seed saving time. But in the meantime, I have all these green onions that I can come through and pick. I just won't pick the thick stalk in the middle that holds the actual flowers because I want to get those flowers to bloom so I can get seed. And I have my first one right here opening up. I have my first one opening up and it's kind of funny looking. So we'll see what it looks like when it actually blooms. All right, these onions are doing great, except I have all of this weed. I think it's called common wormwood or mugwort. So I got to figure out how to get this out of this bed. I'm tired of this stuff. But all the turnips are getting lush and big, and all the greens are still looking good, so I can still eat those. This is a bed of radishes, and I don't know why, but look at this. I've already got one going to seed. It hasn't even been that hot. But let's pull one and see how big these are getting. Those are nice size radishes. I mean, that one's a little one. I'm gonna probably leave them in for another week just to make sure. Yeah, because some of these are still very small and then some are just taken off. But yeah, at least I have a radish for my salad today. With this bed, I've got the 2 tomato plants here, which I think are the black cherry tomatoes. And then I planted a bunch of Swiss chard. I've been struggling with that this year for some reason, so I wanted to try to get more. And all those little wispy things back there are leeks. That was like an hour's worth of work, having to separate bunches of leeks just to pull out single strands to then plant in the ground. I think next year I'm just going to put them straight into the bed and then just kind of go through and, you know, take out the ones that aren't doing very well and thin it all out. But yeah, I don't know if I want to plant leeks like I did. But in the corner, I'll move over. In the corner back there are 2 very special plants. That's one of my baby plants this year. Those are the ones that I'm going to work the hardest to keep alive. And those are Foxglove Flowers. I wanted something very pretty and fairy reminiscent in my garden. And those just remind me of little fairy hats or something. So I'm squatting here because I don't have a tall tripod. But I just wanted to share, if you plant foxglove or you look into planting foxglove, it was one of those things that I was very weary of. It's a beautiful flower, big tall stalks with tons of little flower bells on it. Beautiful, but the problem is they're poisonous. They are actually harmful to your animals. They can kill your animals if they get them. So I chose to put mine in here to keep it away from my chickens. And if my chickens do come near them, because I have one that gets in here a lot, I will cage it up separately so that they can't get to them. No chickens will eat this, no animals will. All right, so my zucchini over here are just getting huge compared to my other squash. I think it's because they're the first ones I put in. But yeah, minus the weeds, I've got a lot of nice zucchini plants going here. So I'm excited about that. All right, this big ginormous plant right here is a weed. I'm actually going to have to pull that out. That's one of the ones that have the large root system. And when I first just took off the leaves, I need to actually dig the entire thing out. But you can see I have beans planted on this trellis, and they're taking off. They're starting to do their next set of leaves, and eventually they'll just be up and over my panels and look great. All right, it looks like all of these tomatoes did well. I do have one that didn't make it, but look at this. That's an anthill. Oh. Anthills and anthills. But yeah, this one back here doesn't look like it's made it at all. I'll leave it for a few more days and see if it bounces back, but it's not looking so great. All of these tomatoes look pretty good too, except they're a little dirty, but they're already getting bigger and they've got dark green leaves starting and all of that good stuff, so they'll pull through. I've got this squash bed over here, and it is Delicata Squash. It's another one of my favorite squashes, and I plant them close together because I prune the bottom leaves off, and that way I can look for pests coming in through the bottom. There's a lot of different types that do that, and I just want to make sure that they, stay strong. Yeah, I guess I'm growing grass on this trellis. I'll have to dig all that out, but you can see all my beans are doing pretty good over here. These beans are doing really well too, and these are all types of noodle beans. I do have this issue. Look at all this white stuff. It's some sort of mold that was in this bag of soil. Either that or it's transferring from my actual cardboard underneath. So I'm a little frightened of this, but I'm going to come out with a peroxide spray and see if I can't get rid of some of that. All right, these tomatoes are just doing awesome. I don't know why these are doing better than the others. These are all my Abe Lincolns. Maybe it's just a stronger tomato, or it wants to just grow faster. I'm caught on a weed. Sorry. But yeah, these guys are getting huge compared to the other ones. All right, the Lima beans are coming through, and I've got new ones sprouting. You can see that little white dot right there. That one's about to emerge. So Lima beans are doing great. That scarecrow didn't make it. So I'm going to have to come out and stake him back in the ground. But I don't have any corn sprouted back here or any of my beans yet. I think they just need a couple extra days. Other than that, I'm excited for this. Okay, so I'm really excited about this little guy right there. That is an Azumi Japanese winged bean. I'm not sure if I said that right. But it's a tropical plant that grows very big, large pods, and I'm looking forward to those. I actually got those free from Papa Pepper. I ordered some stuff from him, and he sent me a bunch of free seeds. And so if his family eats it, I know it's got to be good, and I am definitely looking forward to trying those. I did plant a whole lot in this row, but that's the first one that's come up. I transplanted my Loofah Gourds yesterday. That was one of the ones that I was afraid when it survived the storm, but they're fine. They're doing great, and I just need to get them trained and to move up the trellis, and then that way I can have more of my sponges for the year, because I make a lot of sponges with those. These are all snake gourds. They're fully edible, and I want to try them out this year and see what they're like. They're supposed to taste like a zucchini. And then, if I don't like them, I can just let them grow and be very long, I don't know, sword-like, humongous gourds. And we'll see what happens then, because I'm sure my kids will like to fight with those. I transplanted the birdhouse gourds over here, and I kind of stuck them into the trellising so that they'll start to climb, because they were getting big and long. So these are all of my artichokes. Because the one up front survived, I knew these would. And so instead of putting them in pots like I wanted to, I just put them in the ground. And so now I have a whole row of artichokes. And then right over here beside it, I tried to fill in with extra leeks so that I would have something else going on. And on both ends of this bed, I have spaghetti squash planted. My plants actually died during the frost. I forgot to cover them, so I had to go ahead and put more seed in, but they'll be coming up. And then all this space in between the leeks and the spaghetti squash, I'll probably put some pepper plants in, especially like hot peppers, keep them separate from my sweet peppers. Okay, so it looks like everything pretty much survived the storm. I did lose a couple tomato plants since I planted. That's normal, it happens all the time. I do have some planters up front we'll go look at real quick. I don't show those very often, but they're pretty full and green and lush. So we'll talk about those, but I'm excited. I've got, I'd say, to be honest with you, I've probably only got like 40% of the garden planted. I know it's a lot of plants, but I like to grow high intensity, everything that I can, shove in as much food as possible, because that's the whole purpose of having the garden for me, is to make sure that I have food security, and I can it, I can preserve it, I can dry it, I can freeze it, all of that. So yeah, I do have a lot of plants, but it's all worth it in the end. Check out these planter boxes. I don't think you guys have really seen how great they're doing right now, and I've got a lot going on up there. All right, cilantro went to seed, so I'll just pick the rest of that in the next couple days or so, or maybe wait till the plants are completely in flower, but I'm gonna save seed from those. I'm trying to get these lettuces to now bolt. They're still edible, but in the meantime, I'm just gonna wait because I like this lettuce and I wanna grow more next year. And then my parsley over here was actually from last year, so I've gotta get the seed off of it so I have more next year. And back behind this is all of my garlic. It's already starting to droop and fall, and I think I'm just gonna have to pull it. I do have a scape growing on one, so I'm just gonna leave this and possibly get seed and then just pull the rest, but they're not very big. It's just part of gardening, I guess. Okay, I've got some really nice radishes showing up in this bed, and then I've got some really good spinach. I mean, it's getting nice leaved, so that's gonna be, you know, harvestable here soon. You can tell that the rains got to my kale. They've flattened out a little bit, but yeah, the kale's doing pretty good up here. All right, these bush peas are not looking very nice. I want them to be a little bit darker, and they're starting to yellow, and I'm sure it's because this bed's just holding too much water. I'm gonna let them go and see what happens. All of these radishes are still quite small. I tried to plant them in like a succession sowing, and that way I didn't have all my radishes at one time, and then I could have some later. But I transplanted all these chives out. I grew those in cells, and then this was all from seed. And so this should fill up with chives here real soon. My borage is getting really, really big. That's the only flower that I actually enjoy eating. It has a very cucumber-like flavor. And my daughter and I like it in a lot of our salads. So looking forward to that. And these radishes look pathetic because the birds keep eating them. And these are not doing as great either. Okay, so I planted 4 leeks back here yesterday. You have to wait for the second year to get seeds off of stuff like that. So I wanted to go ahead and fill this spot in as a seed saving area, and I'll come through and add a whole lot more to it. These are my black Spanish radishes, and they are doing awesome, but I don't know if they're bulbing. I don't want to dig too far down in there and mess them up. But yeah, they should be harvestable soon. And these are the radishes that I've been harvesting, and you can see I've got, you know, quite a bit. But I also have quite a bit of bird damage. The birds keep pecking, so I may not grow radishes up here that are red anymore, just to help with that. All right, this is my lacinato kale. This is actually a seed kale. I don't have any of it in the garden because the deer ate it, but I thought, well, I need to go ahead and get seeds going. So I threw that in there, along with all these Swiss chards. That's all for seed. And then these lettuces, that's for seed. This lettuce section is doing really good, nice and lush, and it's really nice, soft, sweet lettuce. So I'm happy about that. I'll only be able to eat for a few more weeks, and then it'll get bitter. This is another one of my baby plants. This is my only ox heart tomato. Ox hearts were my absolute favorite last year, and you only get like 10 seeds per tomato. So I went ahead and separated him from the entire garden because that was the only seed I had left. And that way I could actually save some seed and grow a ton next year. All right, and there's my one little artichoke guy, and he's doing really good. So I'm going to come out and give him some fertilizer because his bottom leaves look a little yellow, but I want to make sure he produces a nice couple artichokes for me. Hey, look, there's one of my ducks. I don't think you've seen them. I don't film them very often. There's the other one. The one standing up really tall is actually my male. He's always stood like that. He wants to be bigger, and if you can tell, it's kind of hard with her sitting. But she's Godzilla duck. She's ginormous, and he is a little guy. So he has to stand really tall to show dominance. But yeah, the other one's still on a nest of eggs. All right, and there's the greenhouse. Still full. All that will be in the ground in the next couple days. All right, so that was just a quick gloomy day walk through the garden. Kind of show you guys what's still going on and what's happening. And I do have some losses. I will never ever say that I'm a perfect gardener. I will never say that I do everything the best, because I'm gonna have small plants and losses and leggy things to put in the ground, and I plant too much and I plant too little, and you know, I'd make all the mistakes that everybody else makes. But I'm proud of myself for what I've done, and that's what everybody should do, is just be proud of what you have accomplished. Because even if all you did was put one tomato plant in a pot this year, that's more than you did last year, I'm sure. And that's a big accomplishment. So yeah, exciting stuff. All right, so in between what I can, I'm gonna get some work done. We have another big storm coming through in about 3. So I've got like 4 or 5 hours to work with, and I have lots of plants to get out. I did pull all my peppers out yesterday and organize them so they're all the same type in each tray, and that way I can just walk out and set them on the ground and plant as quick as possible, because I have to get this garden done. And like I said, I'm about 40% there, and as soon as I get everything else in, we've got 2 weeks of rain. Once that's all done, then I can go through and I can start weeding and I can start getting everything nice, and hopefully by then it's big and lush and I have beans sprouting and all the things that I've always wanted. So I'm excited. Sorry, got a big old bird. It's a vulture. All right, well, it's one of those days. I got to get back to work before the rain comes. So I will see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for stopping in. Bye.